Okay, good morning. This is day 113 of making little videos to describe a day or thought in the life of schizophrenic Dominic. I make these videos to describe some amount of sanity that I have in my thoughts amidst the world going crazy and worrying on me and inflicting schizophrenia on me. I experience schizophrenia, but I don't believe it's a disease or that I am crazy. I believe it's a reality to be experienced. In day 17 of these videos, I describe why I call myself schizophrenic rather than targeted individual. In day 45, it has a 3-minute intro that gives some insight into why I make these videos in the first place. And I've written a book on medium.com that gives some idea about my thought processes, which could have gotten me targeted, and also has some information about voice hearing technology in the public domain, as well as stalking in the public, research on that in the targeted individual program, and my experience with that as a research subject. Okay, so I read little things every day out of books and think little thoughts to give idea into my synchronicity and feedback that I get from the government and things of that nature. And I was actually not going to do a video today because I was worried that I'm not very good at giving a little statement about Memorial Day. It's really sad when you think about the people who died in wars, and it makes me think, like, man, humanity has been so crazy for so long with all these wars and stuff. And so that's where my mind goes on these days like this. And then I heard President Trump's statement, and I was just thinking, like, wow, he's, like, you know, it's I don't think I can do worse than he did in his statement, but so you know I'm just gonna go ahead and talk today on this thing for my day's thing, and people can listen or not, tune out. All right, so I'm gonna go. I was noticing at our house that there's a nest in there's a nest in our kitchen window that has birds, and I can actually hear the birds chirping right now. So it's nice that it's we're still sort of in springtime, but we're heading to summer. And we got 2 new trees in our front yard because the trees were taken out, but we have a little tree and a little bit bigger tree. One tree is a few years old, and one tree is just like a baby tree. And so that's kind of nice to see that life out there. And so that's cool that life goes on after trees are gone. There's new trees that come. Yeah, we actually have these like kind of invasive elm trees, Chinese elm trees, and they grow like gang fire, or I don't know what the word is, but like they they grow like a gang of trees on the hillside in our backyard, which is really cool. And so that's kind of nice. And all right, so I was gonna say something else about. Oh yeah, today I'm gonna go see the movie Thunderbolts. Uh, I'm gonna see the movie Thunderbolts, which is a Marvel movie. I like the Marvel movies. They're fun. I think they have like some amount of. I talk about this in the book, but I think they have some amount of disclosure on technologies and systems in the public domain, or events that have happened in the public domain that don't get explained by mass media, but they get explained by classified technology and things like that. And so it's kind of interesting to see those movies. And I think comic books kind of are really have a lot of the classified section of reality going on in the world. And yeah, that's my theory anyway, and that's what I think. So I like watching those Marvel movies. I find they're fun, and I like Marvel Land at California Adventure. It's kind of fun. Okay, so we're at the speed of light that they were talking about Bitcoin, and I don't know a lot about Bitcoin, but I guess it's like used for spies because spies can hide their money. So you think Trump is using Bitcoin and stuff. So it makes me wonder. They made me think like, is Trump a spy or something? And it talked about in the book. It talked about Russian hacking with Hilary Clinton and things like that. And so, yeah, I had just had the memory of the Julian Assange post, which I said yesterday, and then I read this actually yesterday at the same time that happened. So that was synchronicity. It's weird how it lines up in your book. I'm at the point in this book's about directed energy weapons. He's at a point in there where he's talking about hacking Hillary Clinton's emails, and that's at the same time that I'm talking about Julian Assange yesterday in a memory from years ago. And so that's kind of weird. It's weird how it all lines up and makes me wonder if we're in a simulation, but I don't know. All right. So, yeah, I don't know much about Bitcoin. Uh, it, I guess it's used for spies and things like that where they can hide their money. And okay, so Superwood. I've learned yesterday about this process to create superwood where they like bind the nanoparticles of the wood, and this wood is stronger than steel, and it's supposed to be sustainable. It's supposed to be a sustainable process or more sustainable. And so because the wood lasts a long time, and the superwood is I guess that's why I assume it's sustainable, but I don't really understand it. And Leon, the guy's name who made it is I think he's a Chinese scientist, Liang Bing Hu. I don't know how to say it. Liang Bing Hu. And he made this superwood. I think he was from MIT, but I'm not sure. I don't remember the university he was from. Uh, so that's kind of cool. Uh, Caitlin Johnstone made a statement yesterday about she kind of follows the uh, Palestinian genocide in Israel, and she's very adamant about opposing Israel. And when you're doing what Israel's doing, they should be opposed, and there should be pressure put on the Israeli lobby for what they're doing to Palestine. And I theorized in my book that perhaps this is all part of a cultural production because it's a war, and I think wars are part of cultural production. And I actually agree with the statement that she said yesterday. She said that uh, Israel has done more for anti-Semitism around the world than Stormfront, which is a neo-Nazi organization that spouts off on the internet all the time. And what Israel is doing to Palestine, which is being live streamed with and they do it while waving a big Star of David flag, that this has done more for anti-Semitism around the world than Stormfront ever did, in all their years operating. And I think that's really true. And you have to wonder if you're a Jewish person, I'd really question Benjamin Netanyahu and what his motive is, because it's not, because at the same time they're doing that, they're taking up the mantle. They're actually going around saying, like, if you criticize our warfare in the Middle East, that you are anti-Semitic. And and some people who criticize the war are probably anti-Semitic, but a lot of people are just saying like this is an atrocity that you are perpetuating here, and so yeah, I if I were well, I questioned Benjamin Netanyahu as a non-Jewish person, and I would think that if I was Jewish, I would question Benjamin Netanyahu because he's not you know I actually question Bush with the Iraq War. Supposedly he was doing all that for America, and like I don't think it was. I think it was a way to undermine America. Trump, I question about him for white people, and I just don't think he's doing something that's beneficial for white people in this country in the long run. And so, or if we're America, so he surrounds himself with all these flags of America, but it's like, all right. That reminds me on Memorial Day, the flag gets used for particular purposes, and it's it's kind of weird how like one side dominates the flag. And I was actually thinking, I remember reading, I think it was in Glen Yeadon's book about the Nazi Hydra in America, about how the Nazis came in during the aftermath of World War II, or even during World War II, they had this thing where they wanted to make inroads into the American public, and they thought they could do it through nationalism and the flag itself. There was a big deal about the flag, like they would use the American flag to promote their cause or whatever. And I remember reading this, and they wanted to. There was like operatives in the U.S. that were. It was like the America First and all that stuff. And they used the flag, and they tried to take ownership of the flag and use it to undermine America by promoting things that were just like like I don't know, wearing the flag as underwear or stuff like that, or like uh, wearing the flag, or just like kind of debasing, kind of like respect for the flag by attaching it to all these kind of ridiculous things. And so, just like anything you can think of or whatever. All right, so I was saw this thing the other day that said that there was a report from one of the outlets on the West Coast that said that there's been studies that find that a big earthquake could create a tsunami in the West Coast. And there was that earthquake that happened the other day at 7.7 earthquake in outside of California on the coast. And there was the picture of a cottage on the beach. And now I'm playing the lotto today, and it's $177 million. And so if I ever won anything in the lotto and I could buy a house on the beach, I would not do it because I respect the beach too much. I respect the ocean too much. It's too powerful, and I would probably go inland. And I know that you have warning when there's a tsunami, and there's likely not going to be a tsunami, but it's fear based that I'm acting this way, but it's based on some sort of like I remember the tsunami in Japan, I remember the tsunami in Indonesia, and I actually think those could have been man made. And I experienced the fact that I drank alcohol on New Year's Eve, and there was an earthquake in Japan, and I wanted to visit Japan. And so yeah, I respect the ocean too much to live by the ocean on a cottage right on the beach. I live like a little up and away, in the hillsides or something like that near the beach, maybe like a mile from the beach or something, or a few miles from the beach or something like that. But I don't want to live right on the ocean. I'll vacation to a spot like that, but I won't live on a spot like that. All right, so I had something else to talk about Giorgio de Santayana, an MIT professor who discusses that there was intelligent people that devised the system to veiling technical terminology of advanced astronomical science in myth, but I will talk about that in a later one. I'll briefly talk about it in the next one because I don't want to talk about it too much. But all right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop here, and thank you for listening to me. Goodbye.